I keep hearing it. Build it, and they will come. I mean, it's a great line for Kevin Costner. Goes down in movie history as one of the best ever. But in podcasting, utter bollocks. In this episode, we're going to rip that lie apart for you and replace it with something that's actually useful. So this week alone, I've heard build it and they will come used as a phrase to symbolize taking action to get results used everywhere. A startup bragging about a new app that they wanted a podcast for. A designer showing off a shiny new portfolio site that they wanted a podcast for. Even someone in agriculture pitching bloody seed boxes like they're sacred relics. Now, maybe it works there, perhaps. But in podcasting, that line is as useful as Stephen Bartlett with a Blue Yeti. Podcasting isn't passive. I mean, nobody just stumbles into this content by accident. You can release a dozen episodes, and the only person that will hear them, well, maybe two, you and your cat. If your cat is actually a nice cat that takes interest. If you're relying on just building in order for it to come, you're delusional. In the nicest possible way. Let's get the reality check out the way here, shall we? Radio versus podcasting. Yeah, they're similar. They both use audio. But remember what I said in a previous episode about LinkedIn influencers thinking having 100,000 followers means 100,000 podcast listeners? Cute! Adorable! Wrong. None of this matters. Podcasting isn't radio, and it's not a social media account. You're not interrupting drivers with 2020 traffic and weather updates here. And you're not a playlist that they can't be bothered to switch off. Podcasts are proactively chosen. Proactively. Your listener has to want you in their ears. Now, I want to give a shout out to Irina Turash for putting it perfectly on LinkedIn. She said, nobody just stumbles across podcasts. She's absolutely right. Followers scroll, listeners to podcasts commit. They rarely just find you by chance. So stop thinking you can just dump audio out into the world and by magic, it will seed listeners. Let's take a moment to talk about these podcast gurus who magically have all the answers to all the success in podcasting. Here's some truth for you. Podcast growth isn't mystical. It's math. It's strategy. And in that strategy are some components that are key for your podcast to get any results. Positioning, very important. Who's the show for? And why should they listen to you? Get that nailed first. Then it's all about discovery, SEO, your titles. People are literally searching for answers to questions. Stop hiding your episode behind cutesy, clever nonsense. Consistency is a factor. Show up enough to build trust. But don't kid yourself. Consistency alone is a hamster wheel, not a growth engine. Marketing, super important. Doesn't need to be the kind of marketing that will bankrupt you. You can start building the right audience today for as little as £5 per day. And let's not underestimate the power of good production. People think it's just a nice to have. It isn't. It's imperative. A terrible sounding podcast is not going to get results. Some big brands out there are churning out terrible sounding podcasts. It's all about the quality, the editing, the flow. Make it enjoyable and engaging enough that people think, oh, yeah, I want to hear more of this. Look, here's the deal. Pros like me exist for a reason. I've done this for indie shows, corporates, and pretty much everyone you can imagine that has a podcast. If you want to cut the learning curve and get help, it doesn't have to cost you a bomb. Grab yourself one of my audits and we'll be able to get you on the right track for the same price as a small weekend breakaway in the UK. So back to the point, this isn't build it and they will come, it's plan it, earn it, and then they might come back again and again. Let me give you a bit of homework with this episode. Take one of your episodes, just one, fix the title so it answers an actual search query. Baby step. And if you're stuck, that's literally what I do with podcast audits. I tell you exactly where your major problems are and how you can turn them into results. But you don't need me working with you in order to achieve a lot of this stuff. Just sit down and look at your content as one of your listeners might do. Put yourself in the mind of that ideal listener. Are your titles enticing enough to make you want to listen to your show if you weren't the host of it? If the answer's no, hate to break it to you, you're not really being very effective with your content. Have a listen to it. If you weren't you and you were listening to your own show, would you be hooked from the first minute? Be honest with yourself. Again, this is one of the things I help a lot of podcasters with when it comes to my audits. Don't build it and hope that they'll come. Build it, earn it, and know that they will. Okay, here's a new idea that I want to bring into this show, because the thing is, although I know for a fact this podcast is offering advice that's very different from a lot of other podcasts out there, I still think it strays very closely sometimes to the known advice. And what I want to offer you with this show is some advice that nobody else is talking about. But I can offer you some unique insight from experimentation that I've done that has got results. So let's try straddling the mainstream for a second with some out there ideas. Now, I just want to make it clear, this is not stuff I'm saying that you should do. It's just ideas that you should chew on. Think about your releasing times. You ever notice that people binge podcasts sometimes on Sunday nights? Maybe try dropping an episode then. Catch them right as they're doom scrolling, ready for Monday. This is particularly easy if your release day is a Monday. Just bring the episode out a day before. See what happens. You'll be able to compare last week's results with this week's results really quickly. Try the whisper tactic. That's kind of what I'm doing now. Record a mini segment or an episode where you're speaking like you're telling a massively new secret. Human brains are wired to lean in when they think they're getting something nobody else has. Weird, but true. And maybe try surprising your audience with a random drop of an episode that they're not expecting. A random unannounced bonus, perhaps, on a Wednesday morning when you usually release on a Monday. Just break those patterns, those routines, those habits, and spark a little bit of FOMO. Talk about that episode in the very next episode that you publish as part of your mainstream release schedule. It's amazing how many people will want to go back and listen based on what you've said. Sometimes it's these tiny experiments that can crack the nut and seed something new. Podcast feedback. First up, here's listener Michelle.
Have been listening to a few of your podcast episodes recently and really enjoying them. I feel like it's the real you that we get to see, thrown in with a little bit of spice, of course, but I'm finding them super helpful and really enjoying them. So thank you for all that you're doing out there.
Kate in Hertfordshire.
I honestly needed to hear that brutal math breakdown in your episode about the disparity between LinkedIn follower numbers and listener downloads. I've got 25,000 LinkedIn followers and have been scratching my head for the last year about why my podcast numbers barely shift with every promo post. Time for a different strategy, I think.
Leave your feedback at podmastery.co/voicemail. Thanks for listening to this episode of Podcasting Insights with the Podmaster. Give it a follow if you aren't already in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts. More importantly, if you know somebody else that could benefit from listening to this episode that also has a podcast, please do share it with them. Let me know you've done it so I can thank you personally. This show is going on a couple of weeks hiatus because, frankly, I'm tired and I need a break. And like I've told you in a previous episode, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you warn your audience in advance. So I'll be back with you in a few weeks' time with a new episode of Podcasting Insights. In the meantime, good luck with your continuing mission to attain pod mastery.
Podcasting Insights.